I wonder if you've ever seen the TV show called Penn and Teller Fool Us. It's a magic competition where magicians come on and perform their best tricks, hoping they can stump the hosts, which are two guys named Penn and Teller. So these magicians come on the show and they do their best tricks. Then Penn and Teller discuss how they think the trick was done. They don't get fooled very often, but every once in a while they do. And when they do get fooled, the magician wins a trophy and gets to perform the trick for Penn and Teller's magic show in Las Vegas. Magic is all about fooling the audience. They think one thing is happening, but meanwhile something else is happening. It's a game of misdirection. Magicians want the audience to focus on one thing that doesn't matter, so they don't see the other thing that actually does matter. That's when the audience gets fooled. Being fooled can be entertaining when it comes to magic. Tickets to Penn and Teller's show in Las Vegas cost over $80 a piece. But when it comes to your life, being fooled comes with some pretty big consequences. That's why the book of Proverbs in the Bible goes to great lengths to say, don't be fooled. To begin with, Solomon, he's the author of the book of Proverbs, he makes a big deal about wisdom. In fact, the whole purpose of the book is stated right at the beginning. These are the Proverbs of Solomon, David's son, king of Israel. Their purpose is to teach people wisdom and discipline, to help understand the insights of the wise. Solomon knows that wise people will be able to do what is right, just, and fair. And as the king, he wants more of those kinds of people. It's not easy to lead people who do what's easy, unjust, and unfair. But there's a difference between wisdom and knowledge. Knowledge is about knowing the right answer, or knowing what you should do in a certain situation. Wisdom includes knowledge, but goes one step further. Wisdom is about applying the right answer. It's about actually doing what you know you should do when you encounter a situation. And that's a big difference. The difference between knowledge and wisdom sets up a contrast that Solomon draws throughout the whole book of Proverbs. That contrast is between the wise person and the foolish person. And as I read through the Proverbs in this book, I can just imagine Solomon sitting next to me. He puts his hand on my shoulder and he simply says, "Don't be fooled." So as we get this series started, let's consider a few of the actions and attitudes of a wise person according to the book of Proverbs. First, a wise person respects God. Proverbs chapter 9 verse 10 says, "Fear of the Lord is the foundation of wisdom." This isn't the kind of fear that makes us afraid of what God might do, like we're afraid that God might come unglued on us. That's not who God is, and that's not what God does. This fear is more like reverent respect. It comes when we acknowledge God's greatness and supremacy, and this respect for God serves as the foundation for wisdom. Why is that? I think it's because we won't act wisely in accordance with what God says if we don't take God seriously. Or to put it the other way around, we act wisely when we take God seriously. So a wise person is someone who respects God. Next, a wise person thinks twice. According to Proverbs chapter 13 verse 16, wise people think before they act. Of course, the reason is because some things seem like good ideas in the moment, but they really aren't. If you automatically say yes to every opportunity that comes your way, you'll be fooled. You will almost certainly take some wrong steps that leave you with a lot of regrets. So pause and think twice before you say yes to something. Aesop told a fable about this kind of thing. It's called The Frogs and the Well. There were two frogs who lived in a marsh. One summer the marsh dried up and the frogs moved on to look for a new place to live. They came across a deep well and stopped. One frog looked down and said to the other frog, "This looks like a nice, cool place. Let's jump in." The other frog thought about it and said, "What if this well dries up like the marsh did? Then we'll be stuck." The moral of the story is to think twice before you act. Solomon and Aesop are on the same page with that. Third, a wise person gets advice. Proverbs chapter 19 verse 20 says, "Get all the advice and instruction you can, so you will be wise the rest of your life." There's an aspect of humility when it comes to learning from others. When you ask for other people's opinions and advice and you listen to what they have to say, you're acknowledging that you don't know everything yourself. And that's a good posture to have. Plus, sometimes you're just sitting too close to the action, too close to the situation to make a good decision about it. Should you go out with him? Should you go out with her? Well, as they say, love can be blind. Before you just listen to your heart and say yes, you should bring a few other people around that you trust and respect, people who have your best interest in mind, and ask them what they think. You don't have to go along with their advice. In fact, sometimes the advice might lead you in two different directions. But at least take the time to invite people to share what they think with you. No matter how you proceed, your decision and the outcome will be better because you took time to listen to what others had to say about it. Next, a wise person has integrity. According to Proverbs chapter 20, verse 7, the godly walk with integrity. In the book of Proverbs, being godly is a synonym for being wise. The reason is that walking wisely pleases God, and those who please God are said to be godly. And then integrity is about being whole and undivided. A person who has integrity is being truthful and honest about who they are and what their intentions are. They aren't one way with one group and another way with another group. When you're around a person with integrity, you know that what you see is what you get. It's wise to have integrity because you don't have to keep 3 different stories straight and live with the fear that you'll be caught in a lie. You can walk with confidence knowing that you're being authentic and telling the truth and that ultimately God's got your back. Fifth, a wise person shares resources. Proverbs chapter 21 verse 26 says, "Some people are always greedy for more, but the godly love to give." You weren't made to gather more and more goods for yourself. It's a strange fact that some of the richest people in the world are also some of the loneliest people in the world. A psychologist named Elizabeth Lombardo blames this phenomenon on what she calls the treadmill effect. Basically, we think that getting more things will make us happy, so we work to get those things. But then, after we've gotten them, we realize they didn't make us happy. So we look for something bigger and better to get, and the cycle keeps going. It's like we're running on a treadmill. Meanwhile, a research team at the University of Zurich found that generosity makes people happier. They could have just read Solomon's words here, which were written thousands of years ago, to figure that out. Sharing what you have not only makes you happy, it also makes you godly and wise. The last thing I want to share is that a wise person brings peace. According to Proverbs chapter 29, verse 8, mockers can get a whole town agitated, but the wise will calm anger. It's been said that every one of us carries around a bucket of water and a bucket of gasoline. That's figurative, of course, but it's a good image to keep in your mind. When fires pop up in your life, issues at school or at home or wherever, which bucket do you pour from? If you pour gasoline on those fires, they'll grow bigger and hotter until they burn up everything around you. That's what's going on in this verse. The mockers pour gasoline on the fire and stir up the whole town. But there's a different way, and that's the way of wisdom. A wise person sees the fire and pours the bucket of water on it. The fire slows down and eventually dies out. That's the effect that wisdom can have in your life and the lives of the people around you. Now, for all of these things, the opposite things can be said when it comes to a foolish person. A wise person respects God, but a foolish person doesn't care about God. A wise person thinks twice, but a foolish person lives for the moment. A wise person takes advice, but a foolish person thinks he knows it all. A wise person has integrity, but a foolish person tells lies to get ahead. A wise person shares resources, but a foolish person keeps everything for himself. And a wise person brings peace, but a foolish person stirs up trouble. The picture between these two types of people couldn't be more different. And Solomon's tone in this book isn't like a drill sergeant telling you what you have to do or else. It's more like a mentor, someone who cares about you and wants the best for you. At the end of the day, you have to make your own choice about your own life. Will you choose wisdom or foolishness? And before you answer, I think Solomon would also be quick to add, don't be fooled. Your choices will eventually catch up with you. So, which way will you choose?